Hey, before we get started, Daryl, can I tell you about the very worst post-speech audience comment that I ever received?
Go for it.
This kid comes up to me after my speech, and I had been talking about positive mental attitude. And he says, I remember seeing a YouTube video of Tony Robbins speak on positive mental attitude. And he said one really important point that I think you completely missed. And then he continued to school me on Tony Robbins' take on PMA. Right. The funny thing is I actually said that point that Tony Robbins had said in my speech, but apparently Tony Robbins said it a lot better. Right. Well, friends, we've been talking a lot about developing the content of your speech and making sure that you get down the right words in the body, the introduction, the conclusion. But can I tell you one of my biggest fears that I would have as a speaker, not in the very beginning, but as I got better and better at speaking, was that I would pour my heart out to my audience. And after I give them everything I had, I was scared to death that my audience would yawn when I was finished. One way to ensure that your audience receives the full value of your speech is by engaging them with audience participation techniques. Now, imagine that you walk off stage and someone says to you, I've heard people talk about mindfulness, or whatever the topic happens to be, but I've never heard it put the way that you did. It finally clicked for me, and I know what I'm going to do. Now imagine that people will say to their friends, man, I heard this awesome speech on mindfulness. Let me tell you about it. Actually, I'll never be able to do it justice. You'll have to hear it from Daryl Pace. Hopefully sometimes he'll put it on YouTube, or you'll be able to see it live, because that was the best I've ever seen. To get you started with audience participation techniques, I want you to think back to the 6th grade. How were you as a 6th grader? Were you insecure? Had you started to care what other kids thought about you? Or did that happen later in life? 6th grade was the first time that I desperately cared about fitting in. I was the new kid in school. Now, kickball was the recess game of choice. I played soccer all my life, and that was the leading goal scorer in my 5th grade year. I could kick the ball far, and I could run fast. I mean, what other skills do you need to be a most valuable player of the kickball team? But the kids didn't know me. It came time to choosing sides. And the two biggest boys, David and Andrew, stepped outside of the assemblage of kids. They surveyed us winners and losers. You know how this goes. They knew, and we knew it too, that whoever they picked first would have an impact in the game, but it also have an impact on their self-esteem for the rest of the day. Same goes for whoever they picked last. Well, David picked Jack first. As he was walking to David, his captain, everybody knew that he was going to pick Jack even before it came on his lips. Andrew picked Juan. I don't know if Juan and Jack had kickball skills or if they were just best friends of Andrew and David, but they were picked first. The picking continued. And I remained in the pack until there was only 2 of us left. When I was the last person picked, I learned that the second to the last person's name was Patrick. Patrick was small, smaller than me. Why would they choose me after they picked Tiny Pat? And then it dawned on me as Andrew chose me last. He said, new kid, you're on my team. Maybe. I didn't get picked because they didn't know my name. Have you ever had someone call out your name when you're in a crowd? Maybe at a speech. You're in the audience and someone calls out your name. You ever had a shout out? Oh, it makes you feel so good. We want to hear our own name. When I'm called to attention, I stop multitasking immediately. And I'm ready to participate because the person in the front of the room said my name. Now, sometimes they don't call my name. They call out my neighbor's name. Why would they call out my neighbor's name? I got to pay attention. Maybe I missed my name. Perhaps the person in the front of the room will say my name next. Calling out someone's name is just one way to engage the audience. Causes them to participate. I heard great speakers memorize 10 audience members' names and use them throughout the speech. I love asking a question to one audience member and calling them out by name. Maybe you might want to consider a rhetorical question for a large audience, but ask that question to just one individual. Even for a rhetorical question, everyone sits up. They're afraid that you're going to put them on the spot next. So what if I met Betsy in the lobby before the speech and I opened the speech by asking her, from the podium, Betsy, have you ever been in a situation where two captains are choosing teams and they're wondering who they're going to pick, and you're wondering, am I going to get picked last? I mean, Ketchel, has this ever happened to you? Could you imagine? People are going to wonder, what's going on? How does he know Betsy's name? How does he know Ketchel's name? Does he know everybody here? They're intrigued. Not only do they think that this speaker's got good things to say, but he's thinking about his audience and he's drawing them in. As we talk about audience participation, we want to change the focus from what you want to say to the audience to what the audience needs to receive from you. I want to teach you a marketing technique. Marketers, they want to have the biggest impact on the largest number of people. However, there's this paradoxical mindset that they do. In order to have the biggest impact on everyone, they focus on something called a target market avatar, where they put all their energy into the perfect buyer. They think of one specific person and all of the characteristics within that person. That drives how they develop their product and how they create their messaging. It actually makes their messaging better, connect better with the audience as a whole. So they create this target market avatar. They actually give the person a name. They find a picture of that person and they try to discover the person's goals, their problems, and their pain points. And then they try to discover what's the ideal solution for that one person. They try to get into this person's head, even though it's a fictitious person. And this influences, again, their product production and their messaging. Who is the avatar for your next speech? Let me tell you a little secret. I have an avatar for this speech right now. You have got something to say, my avatar. You know that by developing your speaking skills, it's going to help you get ahead and it's going to help you make a positive impact on other people. You want to know how to be an excellent speaker, and you want the inspiration to help you practice and make this a priority. You've got something to say. Don't let your message fall flat because you didn't consider your audience. Your audience is giving you a gift, their time. You may have a dozen people giving you 10 minutes, or you might have several thousand people giving you 45 minutes. Either way, you're given a gift of their most precious commodity, their time. They can spend $1 and earn another one back. But the minutes, the seconds that they give you, they will never replace. What will you give them in exchange for their attention? Will they leave your speech energized or exhausted? In the end, will they clap and stand, or will they quietly leave saying, that was bland? Are they engaged or detached? I bet you thought I'd rhyme. Maybe they're enraged that you wasted their time. How you deliver your speech is the crucial component to audience participation, and our entire next section will be devoted to your delivery. But first, I'd like to give you 5 more ways to engage your audience. Now, before we look at the 5 tips, I want to remind you to begin with the end in mind. You want your audience's attention to last to the very end, like the climax of a great movie or a book. You should start on a high note and you should finish on a high note as well. I've got to go out like this in this training session. We're going to finish on a high note. Sound good? We're going to play a little game. Then we're going to take a poll. The game is called 2 Truths and a Lie. I'm going to tell you 2 truths and 1 lie, and you'll have to decide which 2 are true and which one is a lie. Now, after you see this section in the video, you can take a poll. And with this poll, you can compare your answers to everyone else who's ever taken this challenge. Finally, I'm going to have prizes for everyone that takes this poll and gets the challenge right. Okay, are you paying attention? Because the stories are going to come fast and the right answer might be tricky. By the way, if you've been paying really close attention, I just gave you the 5 tips for engaging your audience by example. Before I do, I'd like to play a little game with you. Then I'd like to take a poll. Finally, I'll have prizes. Everyone loves prizes. Okay, are you paying attention? Because the stories will come fast, and the right answer might be tricky. Two truths and a lie. Remember, I'll tell you two truths and one lie. You guess which one is the lie. 4 years ago, I met the president of a country. We had dinner together, and I have pictures with him. One. Two, my 4-year-old son broke his arm when he jumped down our stairs. We were playing tag, and I was it. Three, there's no pole at the end of this game. Therefore, there is not a prize. All right, there they are. The three questions, two of them are true, one of them is a lie. Have you decided in your head which is true and which one is false? Well, why don't we take a poll? Why don't you click on the link below? We're going to send you a prize. All right, so obviously it was the third one. That was a lie. There is a poll and there is a prize at the end of this. Have you ever wondered how speakers come up with their great ideas? Or how they come up with these profound insights and amazing connections to the world? We've included a bonus training, how to develop profound thoughts. And that is your prize for taking the poll after this video. There it is. There's a poll, there's a prize. That was the one that was false. It was a fun game. Okay, let's look at the 5 tips for engaging your audience. 1, consider a game. One of the most boring ways to start a speech is with a chronological history lesson of you or your company. There's 2 types of games that you can play with large groups. One, instead of calling it a game, I prefer to call it a mixer. It involves everyone in the audience. They can interact with you just as you did with True Truths and a Lie. Or they can interact with each other. It gets their head warmed up for the topic that you're going to be talking about. Let me give you an example of this I used in my class for helping students learn to think outside of the box. I give them a minute to come up with as many uses for a brick as they can. They have to write them down. A brick can break a window. It can become a doorstop, a false tooth for a dinosaur. I never said the examples couldn't be fictional. It could be a weight to test a parachute. Whatever uses they come up for a brick, I would then begin my talk about thinking outside of the box. And I got their brain warmed up with this exercise. They're fully engaged and they're on their feet, they're ready to go. They're with me. A second type of game I call upfront games. You bring 1 or 2 audience members to the stage to demonstrate your point through a game. As a child, I was asked to the stage by a scientist who demonstrated the effects of dry ice. He gave me a protective glove and a dry iced frozen banana. And he asked me to pound a nail into a block of wood with a banana. While I was the only person interacting with this science experience, the whole audience was interested to see if I could pound in a nail with a banana. It had everybody's attention with only one person up front. So that's the first thing, is play a game with the audience. The second thing is take a poll. Polls can range in sophistication from having the audience members raise their hands to request that they go onto an online polling site with their cell phones or asking them to state their opinions in real time. People can tweet their answers to your poll if you give them a hashtag or want them to respond to your website. A third one is give prizes. People love prizes. And a prize can be candy that you throw into the audience. It could be applause for the winner. Another way, the fourth way to engage your audience is by asking questions. You got to choose your questions carefully. A great question will engage your audience. Last week, I asked my teenage son, what issues in your life right now do you think about the most? So after he joked about girls, and I couldn't get the boy to stop talking about his worries about the future. It's a burden that I had no idea that he carried, but he just started talking and talking and talking because I asked the right question. Great questions make a difference. Fifth thing that will be helpful for your audience is give them signposts. I mentioned that the answer to the game, Two Truths and a Lie, is going to be tricky. Did you pay closer attention to the game? Because I said it's going to be a tricky answer. Telling the audience what is coming up next, giving them a listening or memory tip, or telling them why the information is valuable for their future That encourages them to listen more closely. Remember, the audience is giving you the gift of their time. In return, you're giving them a gift of fresh ideas. You must carefully consider how you package these ideas. If you just hand them over to your audience in a plain vanilla envelope, that's not going to be inspiring for them to open up that package, that gift, because everybody's throwing ideas at them. Maybe you could find a scroll or a better way to hand this over, or possibly you could make it beautiful and entice them to want to open it. How you package your words matters. If you package the gift well, they'll accept the ideas with delight. Deliver your content so that the audience will say, that was worth my time.
Great stuff, Tony. I mean, that was good. But was that it? Are you sure you haven't been hiding the best idea for standing on speakers? If I know you, you've got at least one more nugget, at least one more trick up your sleeve. You ended okay, but can you end on a higher note?
Okay, Daryl, you pulled it out of me. I will give people their money's worth on this one. Thanks for sticking with me this long. If you're still here, I'm going to introduce a sixth thing that is going to be helpful for you to get audience participation, and that's understanding the value of a call to action. A call to action is when you close by asking the audience to act. Now, have you heard before that it's easier for someone to buy again than it is for them to become a first-time buyer? It's true. In 2010, I was given the responsibility of raising $60,000 at a banquet. In 90 minutes, I was supposed to have 120 people, really it was just 60 couples, give our organization $1,000 each. I knew the principle that my audience would be more likely to give something big if they've already given something small. If they've bought once, they're more likely to buy again. So how did I live out this principle at our banquet? Audience participation. First, we gave people signposts. At the beginning of the 90-minute program, I told them that we needed to raise 60,000. I made it sound crazy. Like, I'd lost my mind to ask these people for such a high number. I made fun of myself for it, and I told the audience on stage that I was going to get fired or promoted for having such an audacious ask. Then we involved them with games. We had the leaders in the community get up on stage with us, and they participated in our games so everybody could see. And we took polls and gave them stats that shocked them about the value of our nonprofit organization. We asked questions and we gave them prizes. They had interacted with us at least 5 times before, at the very end, we asked them for $60,000. The audience had already participated with us throughout the whole evening. They were with us and they believed in our nonprofit. We raised $82,000. In 2015, I raised over $1 million for the Save Youth program. 3 years later, we started the program in 2 countries with 11 staff, 100 volunteers, and nearly 1,000 kids. Give your audience a call to action. Start small. Get buy-in through audience participation. Something as simple as, if you agree with me, raise your hand. Then, if they participate with something small, later they'll participate with something big. Happy planning. I'm excited for your standing O.